Hello everyone, welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And some pretty stunning news on a Monday as World Rugby announced the nominees for World Player of the Year as well as World Breakthrough Player of the Year. And they do not feature a single Springbok player. And in terms of World Player of the Year, also not a single All Blacks player, which is pretty sensational and going to cause a lot of, and I think pretty agreeably, a lot of reaction, because World Rugby have left out any player from the two top sides in the world at the moment. The two top sides in terms of the world rankings, the Springboks and New Zealand have traded number 1 and 2 spot the entire year, have not dropped out of the front two, and yet not a single player makes it into the world nominations. 2 Australian players make it to the nominations despite having been beaten by New Zealand a couple of times, and beaten by England the last weekend. I think Australia have had a decent year, and I definitely think that they are building. But to have 2 Australian players nominated for World Player of the Year, especially when you think that I thought they struggled a little bit against France in the mid-year, and it wasn't the strongest French side either, it's pretty outstanding. Or pretty extraordinary, I think, and probably not the word extraordinary to use in a very positive manner. But before we look at the nominations and exactly what I think has probably missed out, please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. So the 4 nominations who have been announced by World Rugby, by the way, this will be voted by the fans. So it'll be the first ever fan voted, and I don't think that's the right way to go either. I think we need to have much more structured, or at least a sort of a voting process which sort of takes a whole bunch of factors. You know, I think, if you almost look at like a Ballon d'Or, for example, where there are players who get to vote, there are journalists who get to vote, there are there are officials who get to vote. World Rugby, I think, have been very lazy. It's very, very easy to set up a poll and say, right, fans, go and register and vote and get some website clicks in and get some ad revenue, etc., etc. I think it's much better if you were to say, right, we're going to say fan votes will count, 15%. Let the media have a vote. Let players have a vote. Whether it's a case of every team gets a certain amount of votes, or every captain makes a vote, or every captain and national coach. You could even say a tier 1 maybe gets more votes or whatever. But to make it a complete fan, voted poll, I think just sort of really dilutes the entire idea of World Player of the Year, and I think it does sort of take away from the honor of the award. But in terms of the nominees, they are as follows: Anton Dupont, Michael Hooper, Mario Itoje, and Sami Karevi. Now, I think they've got it 50% right. I think Anton Dupont has been sensational this year. I do think he is generally on form, one of the best, if not the best players in the world. And I've been saying that for a long time. So I've got absolutely no issue with Anton Dupont. Michael Hooper has been sensational for Australia. Week in, week out, he never drops his performances. And I think he has been one of the best players in the world. Absolutely no problem with that. Mario Itoje, Sami Karevi, you've got to question these selections. You have to question them. I mean, Mario Itoje was part of a large Saracens group that were very, very much off the pace in the Six Nations earlier this year, and raised a lot of questions about the fact that Saracens players were being selected despite having not played any rugby. He then went on to have, I thought, one particularly good game for British and Irish Lions, but nothing sensational across that series. And since then has played 2 tests and for England, and I think that I don't even think this is Mario Itoje's best year as a lock. So explain to me how he makes it this year. I mean, it's not even his best year as a player, and he's making World Player of the Year. I'm sorry, he's not exactly head and shoulders above everybody else. And Sami Karevi comes in and has 4 or 5 good games, and suddenly World Player of the Year sort of caliber. He's not even playing in this end of year tour. So how he gets a nomination, I have no idea. And particularly, how can you leave out all the All Blacks players and all the Springbok players? How can you not include? I mean, if we look at the Breakthrough Player of the Year, not actually too many complaints from it. It's Will Jordan, Andrew Kellaway, Marcus Smith, Louis Rees-Zammit. And I think Marcus Smith, with that Lions call out, probably sort of capped it. But to be even Marcus Smith, he's played 1 match against a tier 1 nation. I think Marcus Smith is a prodigious talent. I do think that he's going to be a phenomenal player. But to get World Breakthrough Player of the Year nomination after having played 1 test against a tier 1 nation, how is that fair? I mean, Rees-Zammit, all 4. He's played the entire Six Nations campaign. Didn't play with British and Irish Lions, but he's played a good 8-9 test matches this year against tier 1 opposition. Will Jordan, Andrew Kellaway have played against good opposition. Will Jordan, I think, probably could have been a candidate for World Player of the Year. The fact that they've left out a Will Jordan or a Geordie Barrett or an Ardie Severe out of New Zealand, those 2 players, I think, if I'd seen them on a World Player of the Year nominations list, I wouldn't have any issues with it. In terms of the Springboks, what I don't understand is Lukhanyo Siya Kolisi, maybe Ian Netzebeth, are they playing squash, tennis? What's the story there? How, or even somebody in the front row, and none of those players pushing? I mean, Siya Kolisi has been dropping 8 and 9 out of 10s week in, week out. He's been absolutely terrific for the Springboks. I think he's going to walk South African Player of the Year, in my opinion. Doesn't feature. And it's not even comes down to the individual players. I just don't understand, how can you have a World Player of the Year nominations list and not include any players from the 2 top nations in the world? And it's not like they're the top nations by accident. You're sitting at the points, and it's 91.36 points. This was last week, so it hasn't actually been updated for this week, but it will be when it does get updated. Then South Africa will go, but they're literally within like 0.03 of a differential between New Zealand and South Africa. After that, there's a 5-point difference to where it gets Australia, England, Ireland, France, Scotland. They're all within like 2 points. So you've got 2 teams who are well above the rest of the world, and yet not a single one of those players is deemed to be one of the best players in the world. I don't understand that. South Africa won the British and Irish Lions series, beat New Zealand. They've lost 3 tests this year. 4 tests. They've lost 1 to New Zealand, 2 to Australia, and 1 to the British and Irish Lions. They've lost 4 tests this year, beaten Scotland, beaten Wales, beaten the British Irish Lions twice, beaten New Zealand, beaten Argentina twice, beaten Georgia. They've won 8 test matches, and they've lost 4. Not a single player gets into the World Player of the Year rankings. New Zealand have lost 2 tests the entire year. 1 to the to Springboks, and 1 to Ireland this last weekend, but they probably wouldn't even come into it. So when this was announced, they lost 1 test the entire year. They don't get a single player in the World Rugby nominations. It just beggars belief. So I don't understand it. We're going to look at it a little bit more in depth sort of the next week. But let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Smash like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel. Who do you think should have been on the nominations list? Do you agree? I personally think Karevi, if Karevi and Mario Toja dropped out and you had a Ardie Savea or a Will Jordan and a Siya Kolisi or a Lukhanyo, for example, I would say that it's a pretty spot-on list. I do think Dupont and Michael Hooper definitely deserve the nominations. I think you add a Siya Kolisi or a Lukhanyo, you add a Ardie Savea or a Will Jordan or a Geordie Barrett, and I think that you've got it pretty spot-on. They haven't, and I think it's ludicrous. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen, and I'll chat to you soon.